I love an object that tells a good story. Its various marks, scars, and modifications tell you about its history. The contents of this package represent one of my most storied objects. My 2007 Hyundai Tucson. This model I bought is a bit broken, but you know, so is the real car. Its worn-down farm truck-like appearance is a result of a halfway finished rattle can paint job from about a year ago. Now, I had no idea what I was doing when I set out to paint this car, but I did it anyway, and that's part of the fun of owning a beater, cheap old car like this. I've loved my car since the day I stopped hating it. When I first bought the Tucson, it had a lot of problems. I felt like I got a bit duped with the purchase. In the first 6 months, it needed new ignition coil, spark plugs, wires, all new coolant lines, radiator flush. But after experiencing all these problems, I changed the ignition coil myself, I learned to change the oil myself, and as I did more and more work on the car and started to give it my own personal touches, I started to like the thing. The real pivotal moment for the Tucson came about 2 years ago when the catalytic converter was stolen. That could have been the nail in the coffin, but I decided not to abandon it. I straight piped it. After that, I knew I'd never sell the car, so I just started doing whatever the hell I wanted to it. I was finally having fun with the car, it felt like mine. And so naturally I wanted to try out doing my own paint job. Now, I was under no delusions that this was going to look particularly great, but I was having fun just learning things, approaching it as a creative playground. And in the end, I think the side that I actually finished doesn't look too bad. But more importantly, I learned out of the experience. I know what I did wrong now. So it's time to do another slightly less crappy paint job. Automotive paint is a very precise process if you're looking for factory finish results. I'm not going for anywhere near perfection here. I just want to do it a bit better than last time. The first step is cleaning and sanding to make sure the paint will have something to stick to. Now, I was pretty lazy with the prep work the first time I did this, and I'm still gonna cut corners now. I'm trying to do this in a driveway over the course of a weekend while I'm back in my hometown. But I do want to do it a bit better than last time. I want to do right by this car. Ever since I've had the first problems with the Tucson, I've been kind of approaching it as a learning experience, a way to teach myself car maintenance and how to do all these different things. When I bought this as my first vehicle, I barely knew how a car worked. But over time, as things break and I take on the repairs myself, now I've become familiar with basically every system in the whole vehicle. And even though I've sort of treated it as a guinea pig for auto maintenance, along the way I've kind of started to care about this thing. There was a point where I wouldn't have been so sad if it died and I could have bought a new truck or something. But now, even if something major happened to the Tucson, I'd like to fix it up and keep it on the road. By the end of the day on Saturday, the car was clean and prepped, good enough for me, all ready for a fresh coat of primer. I only had one more day to finish this paint job while I was in my hometown before driving back 4 hours to Cleveland on Monday. It might be tight, but I was feeling good about the progress so far. After a long day of sanding, I ran into some old hometown friends, and I took the Tucson out to their farm. I just popped in the headlights and taillights, didn't even put the bumpers on or the windows back in, just enough to be street legal. Now, I knew driving out into the country in a vehicle prepped for paint with no bumpers wasn't the greatest idea, but I didn't know yet just how bad of an idea that would end up being. After exploring the property a bit, we found a place that would be perfect for a bit of off-roading.
You see that?
It's got no bumper on it right now. Surprisingly, the Tucson was unscathed until the trip home. Okay, so I just hit a deer.
Damn.
Is it still out there?
Literally, it was like the freakiest thing I've ever seen. It was like spazzed out and did like 3 jumping jacks, and then it just like got up and ran this way. Well, if you were going any faster, it would be a way different situation, so.
Yeah, I wasn't even speeding.
Dude, that's...
In the moment, I didn't know how to feel about this happening. All I knew was that I needed to drive back 4 hours to Cleveland in less than 2 days, and that I didn't want to abandon the Tucson. I got it home in mostly one piece and started to assess the damage. I had to do some slight roadside modifications, cutting away this this wheel well so that it didn't scrape. But aside from that, it's actually mostly fine. I looked out, the radiator is fine, it appears. Definitely not leaking coolant. I might eat my words later, but seems like I got off easy. The cosmetic damage was bad, but underneath, the heart of the Tucson was still beating strong. It was kind of sad seeing the Tucson like this. I was determined to make it right, at least getting the plastic bits out of my headlight and fixing the massive panel gaps. I had limited time and limited resources, so I just got to work doing what I could. Any sensible person probably would have scrapped this car by now. It's objectively worth basically nothing, the interior is stripped, every body panel is ruined. But for whatever reason, I keep finding myself here. Fighting for my life to keep the Tucson out of the scrapyard and on the road. Maybe it's a crazy feeling that cars have souls, maybe it's a desire to be resourceful with what I have. But whatever it is, I find myself here, kicking and hammering my fender straight again. I kinda like it. It's much less sad looking than a few hours ago. And now, unless I hit another deer moving up the driveway, we're finally ready for primer and paint. This experience was tiring, wrecking the whole corner of my car at 4 a.m. and then fixing the thing and painting it all the next day before a 4-hour road trip. As tiring as it was a good reminder that things don't last forever. I like my car and I want to keep it going for as long as I can, but ultimately, these things are tools. I treat the Tucson like a work truck, and that doesn't mean I don't care about it. It means I take good care of it, though I'm not afraid to use it as the piece of equipment that it is. But looking at tools as more than just tools is kind of the whole ethos behind this channel. A good tool has story, has soul, and can teach you things when you refuse to abandon it. And so I painted, late into the night, with a long trip home waiting for me in the morning. You know, setting out on a road trip in a car you fixed yourself, it's a good feeling. And even though this isn't the pickup truck I always wish I'd bought instead, I love this thing. And I don't plan to let it go anytime soon. Thank you for your time.